This morning my sermon will be a little bit different. I'd like to invite all the kids to come up, have a seat on the floor. I want to chat with you. And if you consider yourself an antique child, please come. You're welcome. So have a seat, kids. We're going to sit right here, okay? It's good to see you all look so pretty in your robes. My gosh, come on. Nice job, kids, with the music. I really appreciate that. So tell me, the story I just read called the gospel, you know what gospel means? No. It means good news. So that was a good news story. And I mentioned an animal in that. What animal was I talking about? Sheep. Have any of you ever seen sheep? Maybe at a petting zoo or something? Or no, you haven't seen sheep? Well, they're kind of quiet animals, and sometimes people think they're kind of stupid because they're just so kind of mellow, okay? So I want you to look over at that. See that big window? There are 3 of them together. Do you see a picture of a shepherd in any of those? Yes. Where is it? And how do you know those are shepherds? The staff, yeah. But did you notice something on the top of the staff? What shape is it? It's curled over, isn't it? What do you think shepherds use their staffs for? Yeah. They can unstick sheep from brambles because little lambs, like little kids, are very curious, right? And so they want to investigate everything. And sometimes their wool would get caught up in brambles and bushes and so forth. And the hook was for if a sheep got hurt, the shepherd could pick up the sheep with the hook. Like this, lay the sheep over it and pick it up, and if his hands were full, he could take the hurt sheep back. So there was a reason that it was crooked like that. So I'm talking about sheep because Jesus was talking about sheep today. It's important to understand something. We have a real life shepherd in this church. Did anybody know that?
No.
We do. Can you guess who that might be? No? No guesses? No, go ahead. What was that?
Joan.
You're right. It's Reverend Joan is what we call our shepherd. She's the pastor. And pastor comes from a word that means shepherd. So if she's the pastor, if she's the shepherd, where are the sheep? Do we have any? You are the sheep. Exactly right. So you and your parents and all or your friends, you're the sheep. Then what am I? Any idea?
Shepherd.
Not really, not quite. She's really the shepherd. Let me tell you what I do, and then maybe you can figure it out. I know I'm not an angel. That's a promotion I haven't got. So what I do is I help the shepherd with the sheep, with everyone here, right? And then I go outside of the flock and look for people outside who are kind of lost, and they need someone to help them. Yeah.
A sheepdog?
A sheepdog. Yes, I am the sheepdog. Yay for you. Good answer. You got that exactly right. I think of myself as the sheepdog because I help the shepherd. You know, a shepherd can only do so much without a sheepdog. Sheepdog keeps everything in line, and a sheepdog can't do much without a shepherd. So we really need to work together. So a few years ago, Reverend Joan and I went to Israel, and we had a really interesting thing happen. We went to a place called Field of Angels, and that was the place on Christmas night where the angels appeared and sang about Jesus' birth. It was in Bethlehem. So we went to this field where those sheep had been grazing, and it was funny because they were being raised to be the perfect sheep for the temple. And Jesus was born among the perfect sheep for the temple. Yes, me.
One big track Santa over Bethlehem.
What? I can't hear you with your mask.
Once I tracked big track Santa over Bethlehem.
You did what over Bethlehem?
Track.
Oh, you track Santa over Bethlehem. Well, yeah. I mean, who doesn't do that? So one thing was really interesting because Jesus said in this, what do sheep do at night? They sleep, right? What do shepherds have to do at night?
Sleep.
They have to sleep. Well, how could the shepherds watch the sheep and guard them and then sleep at the same time? Angels, well, the angels, that wasn't their job was singing that night, apparently. But what happens is in that field, there's a cave. Now, you think of a cave as like a hole in a mountain that you can just walk in. This was not like that. It was a small, in the hillside, it was a small cave, and you had to crouch to get into it and walk down 2 or 3 steps. And when you got inside, you could stand up tall because there was a huge cavern that would fit maybe 150 to maybe 200 sheep. It was huge. And so on that hillside, that's where the sheep were at night. The shepherds would take them in, but how, if the shepherds had to sleep, how did you keep the sheep from leaving? Any idea? How? They would sleep right across the doorway. So if there were 4 shepherds, they'd sleep 1, 2, 3, 4. So if a sheep tried to get out, they'd have to step on a shepherd and wake them up, right? And if somebody wanted to steal a sheep, they'd have to step on a shepherd and wake them up. So that was a pretty good way of protecting the sheep. Yeah, it was smart. It was very smart. But think about this. So you wake up in the morning and the shepherds go, okay, time to take the sheep out for food and water. How are they going to tell them apart? I mean, don't all sheep kind of look the same?
Yeah.
So how do you tell them apart?
I put colors on.
You put what? You could put things on them. That's exactly, Henry's right, exactly what Jesus said. The shepherds would get up one at a time and say, sheep, come out. And only their sheep would go with them because they recognized the voices. And sometimes they might even call them by name. And then the next shepherd would stand up and say, sheep, come out. And his sheep would go out. So they never got mixed up. They didn't have to worry and say, I think that one's mine. I think those 2 are yours. Who belongs to the little guy? They didn't have to do that, okay? And so that's what Jesus was talking about. The sheep know the voice of the shepherd. And so, yes, Joan is our shepherd in this congregation, but who's a shepherd for all of us, including her? Exactly. Exactly, it's Jesus, yes. And so Jesus says, you know my voice. You know when I'm telling you the right thing, okay? And if it's the wrong thing, maybe it's not my voice. So do you think God talks to you at all?
Yeah.
Yeah? How does he talk to you?
Great.
When we pray? Yep. Henry? When we're thinking, yes. Feelings we get, yeah. Angels, sometimes people have experiences like that. Yeah, I've heard of that. But you know what? God gives us special shepherds' voices, other voices in our lives. Good people, voices we can trust. So who are the good shepherd voices in your life? Can you think of someone who's someone you would trust to give you good advice? Henry? Jesus, yeah. Who else?
My Grammy.
Your grandmother, okay.
My parents.
Parents, okay. Anybody else? Maybe teachers, or if you have older brothers or sisters, or Joan or me, or your Sunday school teachers. You know, those are all good shepherd voices. But how do you tell the difference between a good shepherd voice and a bad shepherd voice?
Because bad shepherd voice might sound mean and good shepherd voice might sound nice.
A bad shepherd voice might sound mean, but oftentimes a bad shepherd voice sounds really nice. Ooh. So let me give you some examples. See if you can tell me if it's a good shepherd or a bad shepherd. I know you love cookies. This is a shepherd talking to you. So you know what? Because you love them, you don't have to eat vegetables. Just eat the cookies. They're wonderful. Is that a good shepherd or a bad shepherd? Bad. And why is it a bad shepherd? Why?
It's not healthy.
It's not healthy. I mean, cookies are great, but after a while you get kind of sick, don't you? You get cavities and stuff like that. Okay. Yes?
And you could get a stomach ache with too much cookies.
You could get a stomach ache with too much cookies. Yeah. And we all know this, but sometimes we'd rather eat cookies. But, you know, that's not good advice. So here's another one. Brush your teeth.
Yeah.
Is that a good shepherd?
Yeah.
It is a good shepherd because it's healthy. It takes care of you. Okay, how about this? You know, it's okay to tell a little white lie because it doesn't hurt anyone, and then you get what you want. Doesn't that make you happy? Is that a bad shepherd?
Yeah.
Okay, why is it a bad shepherd?
Because you shouldn't lie.
Because you shouldn't lie. And why shouldn't, yeah.
You have to safety lie is if someone's bad and you love them, you should kind of lie to them.
That's if you're trying to get away from someone who's trying to hurt you, you don't owe them anything. That's true. Yeah.
You can't lie because if you lie, you can't break someone's trust.
You could, that's excellent. If you lie enough, people are going to say, I can't trust you. I can't believe anything you tell me because it's a lie. And so we have to listen to the voices of the good shepherds around us. And this goes for parents too. You know, even grown-ups sometimes aren't sure. What do we do if we're not sure if it's a good shepherd voice or not? We have to look, first of all, for advice. So that's when you might go to your parents or your grandparents or something. But what about grown-ups? What do we do when we're not sure? Because sometimes we're not. We go to other grown-ups, right? So like Reverend Jonah and I bounce ideas off of each other all the time because we'll say, you know, I had an idea for the church, and is this a good idea or a bad idea? And we'll talk about it together so that we can try to figure that out, okay? But a good shepherd's voice will always lead to certain things like peace or patience or kindness or goodness or self-control. Those are all what are called fruits of the Spirit. And when we listen to the Good Shepherd's voice, it's always going to lead to something like that. It won't lead to anger and hatred and hurting each other. So that's really how you tell the difference, okay? And that's something for grown-ups to keep in mind too, especially as we come to a new political season of presidential races. We have to keep that in mind. Which voice is telling us the truth? Which voice is telling us the good stuff? So do you think you can remember that? Okay, so that's the lesson for today. Listen for the voice of the Good Shepherd because it's always there. Okay? Thank you for being so responsive. You can go back to your parents now.